RoboCop, the 1987 film that combines a deadpan cop with the charm of a tin can, is often lauded as a sci-fi classic. But let's be honest, it's a chaotic blend of cheesy special effects, wooden acting, and a plot that's as convoluted as a pretzel at Oktoberfest. So strap on your cybernetic armor and join me as we laugh our way through why RoboCop might just be the most gloriously ridiculous film to ever hit the VHS shelf. RoboCop is set in a dystopian future Detroit, where crime is rampant, and the police force is run by a corporation because, apparently, nothing says law and order like a bunch of guys in suits looking to maximize shareholder value. The plot follows Alex Murphy, a cop who gets brutally murdered only to be resurrected as RoboCop. A part man, part machine enforcer with all the subtlety of a tank in a china shop. The storyline wobbles like a three-legged stool, hopping from Murphy's transformation into RoboCop, to his quest for revenge, to a ham-fisted commentary on corporate greed. The plot twists and turns through a series of increasingly improbable events, like RoboCop solving his own murder by casually strolling into a crime scene where everyone conveniently forgets to ask why there's a walking toaster taking notes. By the end, you're left wondering if the real villain wasn't the screenwriter who thought this was a cohesive narrative. Peter Weller's portrayal of RoboCop is as stiff as the metal suit he's wearing. His character arc goes from bewildered cop to bewildered robot cop, with all the emotional range of a Roomba on low battery. The film's attempts to inject pathos are undermined by his robotic delivery and rusty hinge movements. Nancy Allen's Officer Lewis provides moral support and occasionally shoots things. Her role is so underdeveloped you could replace her with a potted plant. The camaraderie attempts are so shallow you question if they were ever partners. The villains are a cavalcade of 80s stereotypes. Kurtwood Smith's Clarence Boddicker is a sadistic mastermind from a campier movie. His over-the-top performance and one-liners make him hard to take seriously. The corporate baddies are so cartoonishly evil they might as well twirl their mustaches and cackle. The special effects in RoboCop are a delightful mix of practical effects, stop-motion animation, and low-budget ingenuity. The film's depiction of RoboCop himself is both impressive and hilariously clunky. His armor looks like it was put together with tinfoil and leftover car parts, and his movements are so rigid that you half expect him to short-circuit every time he takes a step. The film's other effects are equally charming in their cheesiness. The ED-209, a giant robotic enforcer, is a masterpiece of stop motion that wobbles and jerks like a drunken mechanical chicken. Its debut scene, where it malfunctions and turns a boardroom meeting into a bloodbath, is more comically over the top than horrifying. It's hard to be scared of a killer robot when it looks like it could be defeated by a well-placed banana peel. The dialogue in RoboCop is a mix of cringeworthy one-liners and clunky exposition. Lines like "dead or alive, you're coming with me" are delivered with a straight face, even though they sound like they were lifted from a rejected comic book script. RoboCop's robotic monotone doesn't help, making every line sound like it's being read by a particularly unenthusiastic GPS. The film's attempts at humor are equally awkward. The satirical news segments and fake commercials are so heavy-handed that they feel like they belong in a different movie entirely. They're meant to provide a darkly comic commentary on society, but they're so jarring and out of place that they end up being more confusing than funny. It's like the filmmakers couldn't decide if they were making a serious action movie or a goofy satire, so they just threw in a bit of both and hoped for the best. RoboCop is a film that requires a massive suspension of disbelief. The idea that a corporation would create a robotic cop out of a dead officer without any legal or ethical repercussions is laughable. The technology to build RoboCop is so advanced, why not just create a new robot instead of using a mutilated corpse? The film's plot holes are as glaring as RoboCop's shiny exterior. Why does Detroit seem to have only one police precinct and one crime boss? The film's lack of coherent internal logic makes it feel like it was written by 12-year-olds. In conclusion, RoboCop is a film that's more entertaining for its unintentional humor than for any actual action or storytelling. Its plot is a convoluted mess of convenience and cliché, its characters are as deep as a kiddie pool, and its special effects are a charming mix of cheesy and outdated. The dialogue is hilariously stiff, and the film's logical inconsistencies are so glaring that you'll be left questioning if anyone involved actually took the material seriously. So, if you're in the mood for a good laugh at a movie that takes itself way too seriously, grab some popcorn and settle in for RoboCop. Just don't be surprised if you find yourself more entertained by the absurdity of it all than by any actual action or excitement. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share and subscribe. Quirky Critic signing out.